And we're back with me, Johnny McMurray, on the On the Spot Football Podcast for yet another fantastic guest. Tonight's guest, fresh into retirement, just left the Dons, played for numerous clubs in the Irish League, and he's here on the spot. It's Mr. Calum Birney. Calum, how are you?
Good, Johnny. Thanks very much for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you for coming. It's been a pleasure. We've been mates for a long, long time, and
getting old.
It's a bit weird now that we're doing this, isn't it? It's like, what's it came to? Retirement's probably hitting both of us, but how are you?
No, I'm good. I'm good, as you say, just adjusting to life after football, but things a bit slower.
Yeah.
But no, listen, I can't complain. I enjoy playing, but ideally I'd still be playing. But listen, here we are, and no, I'm looking forward to this now. And let's say I greatly appreciate you having me on.
Well, it's time I got another legend in the building. You know what I mean? We've had many nights out. We've been mates for a long, long time, so it's just a different setting for us. But talk to me about coming to the decision for retirement, and what's it been like being in there? Because you mentioned inside the little bubble of you're just fresh into it. So
yeah, so to be honest, Johnny, I've struggled the last number of years with injuries and physically and probably mentally more. It's been tough. I suppose the more football that you miss, and you start to think, is this really worth putting your body through this anymore, and for what you're getting back and everything else. So it was something that I had been thinking about. It was on the back of my mind. It wasn't a decision that I wanted to make, and it certainly wasn't one that I rushed into. I gave myself every opportunity. I tried. The thing that I can take away from everything and gives me, I suppose, peace in my mind is I threw everything at it. Seeing different physios, consultants, injections, operations, been through it all. So there's no regret, in saying, could have done something else or tried something else. I tried everything. And here we are. So fresh into it. As I say, enjoying the break away from football. And that's not to say that, I didn't enjoy it. I love playing. Nothing beats playing. I was in a very privileged position to play and play in the Irish League and whatever else, and certainly didn't take it for granted. But, I suppose bits that people don't see behind the scenes is, even when you're not playing, you're injured, you're still having to go, you still got, going to training and sitting up in the gym watching the other boys train and match days, and yourself, when you're not playing, you don't feel part of it at all. So I'm enjoying just the focus on other things, and as I say, life just being a wee bit slower and not being dictated round.
It's the free time.
It is a bit, and as I say, got plenty outside of football to keep me busy as well. So I don't think that'll last forever. I think there will come a point in time where I think I'm ready to go back into football in some capacity. Now what that looks like, I don't know. Thinking maybe like a blackie role at Glenavon.
Okay.
But no, listen, I imagine at some point, I think I probably will go back into coaching or something, just to, as I say, just when you've got that, it's all you've known, and I'm sure you're the same. I think over time, that itch will continue to grow, and I'll maybe look to get back into something.
It's refreshing to hear somebody coming at it from that perspective, because that's the perspective that I had initially whenever I was coming out. I didn't enjoy football towards the end, and as you say, injuries, I don't think people understand from the outside looking in. They're probably sitting as a player, why is he injured again, or what's happened here? But when you talk about the injections that you go through, you're eating painkillers to make sure you play. You're never fully fit anymore. And this is probably us just getting old and we're laughing about this, but even from a young age, you're sacrificing a lot, and you don't realise the detriment that those things probably have on you.
Possibly. You do sacrifice a lot, but I mean, there's a lot of rewards, at the other side. And listen, I didn't win an awful lot or anything like that, but as I say, going out there on a Saturday, it's a great feeling. But you do, you miss, stag do's or weddings or birthdays or weekends away from us, whatever it may be. So But it's part and course, you know, for if you want to play at a half decent level, you need to be willing to make them sacrifices. So I wouldn't change things. You know, it is what it is. I was very fortunate, and listen, here we are.
Well, you've had a fantastic career, and it's one of these people that I've seen pretty much from I've come into the league that I've left the league as well. So we've been there pretty much that whole time together, and probably more times than none you've kicked lumps out of me more than I've kicked lumps out of you. But I want to take it back to how it all began for you. And usually the way the podcast runs is we like to dig deep into how you were as a kid, where you came from, what actually got you interested in football to begin with, and then where did it go from there?
Yeah, well, I think from a young age, football was you know, my life. My dad actually he had a half decent career in the Irish League, so I suppose that filtered down, and you know, from a young age it was always, you know, kicking the ball and playing football and whatever else. I think I played my first game. I think it was maybe about 7 or 8. Which seems actually quite old now when you think about it, because, you know, even watching my son's journey, you know, I think he plays first game when he's maybe 3 or 4, you know, so that age is...
Plus toddler soccer, there's everything.
It's crazy.
There's money everywhere.
Yeah, it's great. So, listen, like many others, it was just, you know, kicking a ball out in the street, at school, playgrounds, after school, whatever. Birthdays, Christmas presents, it was always first thing the list was, you know, football top, football kit, whatever it was, World Cups, Euro, you know, all them things that there was probably no different to your childhood, Johnny. And it was, listen, I came from a good, hard-working family, and they would have, you know, taken me to football and you know, training and matches and whatever else. So started... joined kind of boyhood club, which was Knockbreda.
Okay.
Under a guy called Billy Moore. Incredible guy, you know, he probably used to treat me almost like his own son. And actually, I think I joined there when I was about 8 or whatever it was. And I was playing with the kids 2 years older. Which at that stage, there wasn't much of a difference. But then I think once you start to get into secondary school, that's when people start sprouting and whatever else. Yeah. And the difference in physicality becomes a lot more apparent. But playing there, loving my football. He made me captain, and you know, just seeing photos and stuff, I was this kid. It was quite small and massive head, bald head, no hair, and it just used to go about just flying into tackles and enjoy. I was actually always a defender. Yeah. And I know sometimes...
I was going to say, have you worked your way back?
Yeah, which many people do. Yeah, let's always want to go out and score goals, whatever else. I had got an enjoyment from defending and whatever else. So always played in defence and loved my time there. Yeah. I think Knockbreda were kind of kicking about the lower Irish leagues, I think, at that stage, and you know, I remember we went away, the whole academy went, because they played Portadown one year in the Irish Cup and things like that. So that was probably my first kind of taste of then seeing the Irish League and
what
it can be. Like that, what it can be.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, listen, that was a great grounding. Going away, Easter tournaments, and I was actually in Mum's house recently, and we're going through old stuff, and we went to Southport and won some Easter tournament. I say, because I was like Billy's blue-eyed boy, he actually gave me the trophy.
Okay, right.
So I've got this big, massive. It's like a champion. I want to see the size of this trophy. So I actually came across that the other week, which was nice, and just reflect on times like that.
What do you think it means to you, though, that it's like you've still got these little triggers that bring you back those memories? I think football is one of the best things that probably we'll ever experience. Like, you get the tremendous highs, the lows, but there's something about playing football at a young age that sets a tone for you as you grow up. But the experiences that you get and the friendships you make as a kid, you just never forget them.
Never forget. And it's just like you pick up a top that you wore 20 years ago. It just brings back them memories. Like
100%.
Boots, you remember wearing them, what matches you wore them in. You probably remember
What
boots,
player you
goals.
wanted to be after.
Exactly.
Like, you know, remember you used to name yourself.
All the things that go with it. But yeah, listen, football it's an incredible sport. And as I say, the memories that I've enjoyed and the lows and the highs, as you say, but you wouldn't change it.
No.
You wouldn't change it for the world.
Whenever you're sort of getting to that stage where you're probably realising that you're quite good and there's academies or young youth teams, probably is what we never had academies back then. It was a youth team and that was it. But you obviously then have to make a move from Knockbreda. What's that like for you? Because you've had such an enjoyable time.
Yeah, it was. I think I'm a couple of years older than you, so the academies had just started to come in, and obviously Linfield were at the forefront of that, and the wee Knockbreda team, as you say, kind of ran its course, because then you had boys then starting to move on, and as I say, touching on playing 2 years up, then started to, it's probably wasn't as safe as it was maybe in younger ages and stuff like that. So there was a move that was needed, and I joined Linfield, I think, when I was 12. But it's funny because now kids need to be at them big clubs to get spotted and different things for them opportunity. You can be very, very fortunate and play for a Green Island or whatever as an example and get spotted. But even playing for Knockbreda at that stage, we had scouts and stuff, and I'd went on a couple of trials even when I was playing for Knockbreda. But as I say, then joined Linfield, and at that stage it was the cream of the cream that were playing for that side. I'm not putting myself in that bracket, but in terms of the players.
Well, you've got there, so you probably at that stage you probably are in hindsight, because they wouldn't go and pull you in for no reason.
It was you boys travelling from all over, wherever. They just went and took the best two players from the Dungannon area or whatever it was. So we had a brilliant team. I'm trying to think. Carl Winchester would have been there just as a name that jumps out, and even at that age and playing for Linfield, there I know people go on to talk about it. Obviously, first team, which I've never always experienced, but in terms of even at the academy Linfield, there was an expectation to win, and it was almost, never forget, going to the academy awards dinners at the end of the season, and they had all the trophies won by all the different teams, and if there wasn't a big trophy, the league and the cup, it was almost like a fate. You felt almost embarrassed, but I was very lucky. I played in a really good team. Enjoyed the initial part, and then actually probably then I would say the period probably from kind of 15, 16 maybe or maybe 14. So great initial couple of years, and then started to kind of physically, people look at me now and probably think I was always tall. I wasn't. I was actually quite small, and then I think it was only about 15, 16 where I took a big spurt. So physically I was underdeveloped, against boys that both I was playing with and playing against. And I think during that period, there was a lot of in and out of the team, and I was used to playing every week, and next thing then you were not playing for a couple of weeks, you're starting on the bench or whatever like that, and my confidence actually took a real hit during that period. And I remember actually starting to actually fall out of love with football a bit, and so much so I think it got to, I think it was about 16, Johnny, and I decided I was leaving Linfield, and actually I was just going to wrap football altogether. And there was a friend of mine that I went to school with, and he was playing for Ballyclare Comrades at the time, and obviously at the end of the season, so May time, whenever it was, and he said, listen, we're going to the Foyle Cup, why don't you just come and play in the Foyle Cup? And I said, no, listen, I have no interest, and I'm done. And he said, right, listen, I'll ask you next week. So then he asked me next week, and I said, right, I'll go. So I went to the Foyle Cup with Ballyclare, who were, a very junior provincial team in the Foyle Cup. And, it was more just to enjoy playing football. There was no expectation. We knew you weren't going to go very far or anything like that. So it was just to go and enjoy a week away and play football. So we played actually the Glens first match, and I think they beat us 3-2. So we were expected to get duffed, and it was a fairly competitive game. And I remember having a good game, and Kai Cherry and stuff would have been playing for that Glens team, and it was really, really good team, really strong team. And then I kind of knew Kyle from growing up in kind of similar areas and playing together when we were younger and stuff like that. So I remember then after he got in contact and said, listen, the manager wants you to come down to Glentoran. They were training at Victoria Park, whatever, and went down there and ended up then joining the Glens then. So
for the next long period of time.
The next long period. So that was how that's how it happened.
That's how you get there. But did you ever expect that you would continue to stay at one club for that length of time? Because it must have been 16 to near enough 26, wasn't it? 25, 26.
I think it was about 12 or 13 years all in, but about 10 years in and around that with first team kind of thing. So it's probably something you don't really think about, at the time. You don't think, listen, I'm going to be here. This is
my club.
It was one, used to go, growing up, used to go match the Glens and season tickets and stuff like this. And that's who, Irish League team would have been. Yeah. So, to join, obviously you think, well, listen, you're joining the under 18s or whatever it was, and you don't expect, to progress from there. You obviously have ambition to do so, but, it was just enjoyed there, great coaches there, Nigel Matthews, a guy called Rod Heasley, and he was a gangster because he used to drive black taxis.
Okay.
So that's, yourself then at that kind of 16, 17 years, then you start venturing into town and different things like that. So every time you come out, 1 o'clock in the morning, there's Rod sitting in a taxi. I was just like that. He used to beep the horn and wave at you.
Just so you knew.
And then Tuesday night or whatever, next thing, you used to get caned. So, no, listen, it was a great couple of years. Couple of years there.
Talk to me about getting into the first team and making that sort of jump, should I say, from the youth system at Glentoran, and how big was it for you signing your first contract, putting on that? I know it's the same jersey, but it's different.
It's different. It was incredible. Absolutely incredible. So we had kind of moved up the reserve team and doing reasonably well at reserve team, but reserve team football back then was obviously very different to what it is now.
Yes, 100%.
You had your 5 first teamers dropping down or whatever it was. You were playing against strapping, established men, top players, whatever else. It just maybe didn't play on the Saturday. The reserve games used to be a Monday night or Wednesday night. Sorry, Wednesday night. So that was I loved that. And then I was very, very fortunate. Then Scott Young, who's the manager, who is a brilliant person. He's one of these people that you bump into and it's just like you maybe haven't seen in 5 years, but we just pick up where you left off. And I remember even Scott Young, he came into our primary school because he used to live around the corner and used to do like after school football clubs. And I just remember thinking like this was, Stephen Gerrard walking in here, like this was just like a hero. And the Scottish accent, whatever else, he used to take us for after school. And I had a bit of a relationship because I grew up not too far away from whatever else. And he was the manager and I was part of a group of, there was 8 of us that signed professional contracts.
Okay.
Or first team contracts at the one time.
Okay.
So it was like Jim O'Hanlon, Kyle, John McWigan, Marty Murray, myself, Owen Beggs, Matty Johnson, Ross Davison. I think that was the 8. But class brought you down to the Park Avenue, big boardroom photos and all this. You felt $1 million.
Yeah.
And it was, wow. This is Glentoran now. And I suppose it was just, it was a surreal experience, because you were going into a dressing room of serial winners, Irish League legends. Never, it wasn't just one or two, it was a changing room full of, star quality players and massive personalities and star players. So I was probably a wee bit almost starstruck going in, to be honest. And then you quickly realise, they take you under their wing and whatever else, and they're very normal. But I remember that initial, I was kind of like, the butterflies, the goosebumps going in, going, oh my goodness, like there's Colin Nixon or there's whoever, and it was so yeah. No, listen, that was I was very, very lucky, and it seems a lifetime ago.
Because at that stage when Scott takes over, the likes of like your Gary Hamiltons, who are the best players in the league at that stage, are still at the Glens,
still there,
and you're thinking like they didn't win it that year before. Maybe the year before that.
A couple of years before that.
Yeah. And then you are coming in as this new group of 18-year-old kids trying to amalgamate into this team. It must have been class, though.
It was unreal. And just when you mentioned Gary Hamilton, obviously that was coming the end. Obviously the Glens, then the financial difficulties were starting, and there was a lot, of the bigger players that they were having to get rid of and stuff like that. And I remember watching guys and just going, oh my days, like what a player, the skinhead and the gloves and the long sleeve shirt and all this. And we I'll never forget this. There was a pre-season friendly, and I think it was a reserve team match, and I was playing anyway, and was away to Cumberrec. And listen, you maybe played at Cumberrec, tight change rooms, whatever else, and word started to trickle down that Gary Hamilton's in the squad. And I was like, oh my days, can't believe this. I'm going to play, with Gary Hamilton. And we come in, I think, come in the change rooms, throw your bags and whatever else. And I started going, I definitely smell smoke. There's someone smoking here. And then you can actually see into the cubicle from where I was sitting. You just seen this puff of smoke. And there he was. Out came the immortal.
Popped out.
Gary Hamilton. Don't think he warmed up. Walked out on the pitch and best player on it.
He's so good.
He's ridiculous.
When you look at the clips back, he's still playing now.
He's still playing.
Somebody to still have that and be able to do that. Fair play to him. Like, I don't know if I could even do that now, but I mean, the quality. And one of the things I think that upsets me the most is like I never got the experience playing properly against him. He made a few appearances on and off the bench probably at his time when he was a manager, but I would have loved to seen him. Same as Spike in their heyday, just water up with it.
I know.
Do you know?
Because you think, I was, I consider myself fortunate as well to actually have played against Gary Hamilton. Yeah. And obviously then when I signed for Glenavon, he was the manager, and he used to every so often join in training. And just used to walk, set the vape down, walk onto the pitch. Couldn't really move as much as well, but just his intelligence, the way he held you off, because he's not that big. Just an incredible player. His touches, his finishing, and whatever else. But even playing against him, he was just so good. Yeah, so good. I remember there was one night we were playing Glenavon, and it was on Sky. It was on a Monday night, and we were 1-0 up, cruising, absolutely cruising. And I think he came on last 10 minutes, and they went 2-1. I think he scored one, set up the other. And even at that age, which mid-30s, whatever he was just he was incredible.
As you say, when you have it, don't you?
Definitely.
So
definitely,
it's a pity we never. Don't know. God, not like that, Annie.
No, definitely not.
Whenever you talk about being at the Glens, or you've come in, that changing room still very much alive at that stage, and Glens are just about to go through that money sort of fiasco that comes in. It's a bit difficult at that time. How was that going into the team as a young lad? Did that faze you at all? Was there problems at this stage for you, or was it just absolutely focused?
There was no problems for me personally, Johnny. It was an experience. It was an absolute experience. And I think, you talk about opportunities and you talk about luck. And I know myself that my luck was the fact that, I know this might sound silly, but the Glens going through them financial difficulties opened that gate for me.
Yeah, 100%.
Because, if they didn't go through that, they would still be able to attract and pay the best players, and I probably wouldn't have got that opportunity because I was nowhere near that level. So it was, it was an experience because, as I say, you were going in and, you just rhyme Elliot Morris, Jason Hill, Colin Nixon, Sean Ward, Richard Clark, David Howland, Andy Waterworth, incredible players. I probably missed out a couple there. And they become teammates and become friends and whatever else. And the we were then exposed to all these meetings and unpaid wages and stuff like this. And Colin Nixon, like, he's like a politician. He's one of these guys that he just stands up and says, right, if he says that screen's white, that screen's white.
Yeah, you're just going with it.
Just go with it.
Yeah, 100%.
And we were training the Cook Rugby Club at the time, and there was me on my £20 a week and whatever else, and I was just sitting there like we scared to look up. All these conversations going on, and we shouldn't be training. And the boys almost, and it's only now as you get older and you reflect, I fully understand their situation.
100%, yes.
They relied on that income. The signed contracts, mortgages, families and stuff like that. And then next thing, wages are being delayed and unpaid and different things. So, it was an experience, not a particularly pleasant one, but you had boys that were deeply upset and there was then all things about, I think strikes maybe a bit strong, but about not going out to train and different things like that. And it was, the boys loved the club.
Yeah.
And it wasn't against the management or anything like that. It was obviously those...
just strictly financial at the time. It's
exactly.
That's something if you're committing to, you're expecting, as you say, people have kids.
Yep.
And if that money's keeping you afloat and it's not coming in, then...
And there was some people that was their only job.
Yeah.
That was their sole income, and they relied on that. So, as I say, now when you reflect, you look back on that, you fully understand their reasons.
You got lucky. You were still with mum and dad, and you were in the house, no rent.
I was getting £20 a week, and I thought this was like
this is my night out.
I about the box on Saturday night, saying who wants a drink. So, but yeah, listen, as I say, things happen for a reason, and that just created then the wee gap, the wee opportunity for me. Now, I suppose the difficulty maybe was positionally playing centre half. It's not very rare that you get thrown in there and away you go kind of thing. I think it's a position you're kind of
dripped in jobs,
dripped in. Maybe if you're a winger or a striker, you're thrown on last 5-10 minutes of a game, whatever else, and whatever, But I think centre half then I just had to bide my time a wee bit longer than others. But I say you were playing reserve games during the week, and they were like first team games.
They were. And there's times where there was no cap on it at that time.
No.
Because I remember coming through, and we were Cliftonville at one stage, and if a game was called off on a Saturday or something happened, the reserve games sometimes were at like 2:00.
Yeah. And
then you would have had like 7 or 8 lads, plus maybe 2 or 3 who were like standout in reserves. You were playing with like a full first team.
You were. And I remember there was one night we played at Bidgley, and I swear to God, Johnny, it was like a Linfield first team.
Yeah.
And it was, I think, beat us 2-1 or 1-0 or whatever it was, but like what an experience.
Yeah.
And let's say you compare that, and probably the whole switch and the kind of thinking behind it makes sense. If you're playing reserve team football, 23, 24, well,
yes, you're
more than likely you
need to move on there.
You need to move on. So, you look at some of the reserve teams now. Yes, you've got your odd first teamer come back from injury or whatever else, but the average age for a lot of reserve teams are 16, 17, 18.
Yeah, it's so poor now, I think.
You think so?
Yeah. I think at that stage, especially for kids' development, I think having kids who are 16 playing against other kids who are 16 in a reserve team, and that's supposed to be like your next step to your first team.
Yeah.
It's too big of a gap. At least we were put in a position where we could learn, and the physical side had to come into it. You had to adapt a lot quicker to be able to cope in that league. And you were also then, you had senior pros dictating what you were doing, telling you what was right and what was wrong, and guiding you. You just have a team of 16-year-olds and the manager on the side. I think it's just too far off.
Yeah, and it's, even when you think back, there'll probably be names that stick out in your head as a good example and a bad example of those in the first team squad, bomb down the reserves, and it goes one of two ways.
Yes,
they either treat it as a first team. Best example I can give is Jim McGovern, who played a lot of football. Great guy, great player. And when I was kind of in the reserve team, he spent a lot of his time playing for the reserves, and what a professional.
Yeah.
You know, he treated every game like a first team game. You know, a lot of people come down, sack it off, walk through it. You know, he would have, you know, ran through brick walls. And I say people like that just stick out in your mind.
Yeah,
You know,
100%.
as you know, young, and Jamie was probably still relatively young at that stage too. You know, it's not as if he's a really experienced, you know, pro or whatever else, and you know, just I always took that example actually, Jamie. You know, anytime I was in the reserves, it's, you know,
Turn up and play.
turn up and treat this properly, and be a good influence, and, you know, set an example for the younger ones, because, you know, they do look up to the senior players. There's no doubt, the first team players. So if you can set a good example, I think that's, you know, that's the right thing to do.
Absolutely. Whenever you're starting to establish yourself as like a first team centre half, you're playing near enough week in, week out, you'd say started getting a wee bit more game time. You're potentially going, competing at leagues, doing well. What's that like for you? How comfortable do you feel you are at the Glens at this stage? Because it's one of the biggest clubs to be at in the country.
Yeah.
But it also comes with like harsh surroundings. Like the fans can be very tough on you,
Yeah.
especially as a young lad coming in.
Yeah.
And the expectations are massive.
The expectation, even though off the pitch everything was a mess, the expectation of the fan base never changed.
Yeah.
So now it slowly did as the years go on, but that initial period, you know, they still expected the team to be challenging. And
Do you think that helped at all, or do you think that, like, as a young team sort of coming in,
it was tough?
Yeah.
It was really tough. And, you know, I think, you know, what I remember, like, coming through, you were playing, I always think that whoever you come up against, certainly back then, I always thought the star player was a striker in the other team. And even when you went to, like, the so-called lower teams of the league, you were playing against top strikers. You know, people like, obviously you've got your big household names, but even people like Gary McCutcheon at Ballymena, you know, stood out to me. So clever, you know, older, you know, at that stage.
Yeah. Not a big presence, small stature.
Small,
just knew the game.
Knew the game, just his intelligence, you know, how he held you off, whatever else. And you look at him and you think, listen, you know, this is going to be, you'll be dominant. You know, you should be winning every duel against him here. But Davy Rainey was another one. Davy Rainey just seemed to score a hat-trick against me every time he did. And, you know, I think we played him like towards my latter parts of the career at the Glens, and played the Welders, and he played again. I remember seeing him in the warm-up going, my hamstring's tight here. So
Better not this to me.
Honestly, I think he might have scored 2 or so, you know, whatever. I think he was maybe 41 at the stage, or, you know, so, and then you obviously had the likes of, you know, your Boyces, your Gormleys, Big Chicken, you know.
Yeah.
What a player.
What a presence.
What a player.
Oh my God.
And just, so yeah, listen, it was tough, and, you know, coming through, you know, a lot of, you know, really tough games, both personally and you know, for the team. So it was difficult. And I think certainly I probably never felt comfortable. You know, it was one of them, you're always worried getting into games and stuff like that, and they're, you know, obviously excited and want to win, whatever else. But it was tough surroundings. But then, you know, as time went on, and obviously there was a huge turnover of players. You know, all that, you know, and the names that I mentioned, obviously Elliot stayed on, Jason Hill, incredible player as well. He kind of stayed on, but most of the others kind of had moved on.
Yeah.
So you've a whole, you know, new younger squad coming in on a lot lower wages, which, you know, let's call spade a spade. You were getting lower quality players.
Yeah.
In return for that. So we went through that transitional period whereby, you know, the realistic expectation was not challenging for the league. It was top 6 and hopefully a half decent cup run.
Yeah. And potentially then at the end of the season you're looking at top 6 gets you into Europe playoffs, and hopefully get in that way, which I think you probably did do at one stage too.
We did. So obviously there was a couple of Irish Cup wins which got us Europe. The first one, 2013, was obviously the infamous one against Cliftonville. They won the double and possibly took their eye off the ball. I wasn't in the squad that day. Me and Marty Murray, we were in it was the old Windsor.
Okay.
So we were in the old railway stand or whatever it was, and I remember it was just like a big platter, like chicken curry and bottles of Budweiser. And me and Marty, we had a great day. So that was 2013, and then obviously fast forward 2 years, and was very, very fortunate to have won, the Irish Cup in 2015, which got us Europe and different things. So it was good times.
Whenever you think about the times that you're winning the Irish Cup there, like, it's going through rough patches and you have a good run.
Yep.
Do you think that meant more to you? Have obviously winning silverware anywhere is fantastic, but for the team to be the way it is, and Glens as a whole suffering near enough, and you able to go and put that together, help the club financially because of the rewards of Europe, obviously, it must have been massive for everybody around the place.
Oh, it was, and as I say, going back, kind of following the Glens and whatever else. Personally, it was by far the highlight of my career, and it was a funny one because obviously it was the Irish Cup that was played at the Oval, and horrible day against Portadown, the back pass, the
Culty and
Rake Yard, and all that goes with it. But listen, it I suppose it gave the club a lift, and then you start to think, right, listen, could this be the injection that we need then to go on and a bit more money, a bigger budget, maybe get better players in and really kick on and try, I suppose, get the club back to where
it should be.
It should be. And it was a difficult then number of years, obviously, up until then the investment came in then. I think that was 2019.
Yeah.
Just before COVID. So, I think, say it was that day in itself, was amazing, Johnny.
It is
absolutely amazing. And one you'll never. Well, it turns out it's not a day because it turns into like a week.
It's a week. There's and definitely a couple of days anyway.
It is,
especially the way we probably ripped it. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I feel like the Irish Cup is something it's not. I would say magical. Magical is probably not the right word, but it's different because everything around it is professional.
Yeah,
it's like everybody's up in the morning. Everybody's had their suits.
Yeah,
everybody's ready to go. Everybody looks the part.
Yeah,
and then you put on this show, and then if you're lucky to win it, it's the celebrations, and then it's the idea that once we get this, you're away to Europe. You're back a wee bit earlier, yes, but you've got 4 weeks of training, and we're going somewhere.
A bonus.
Yes. Well, I was never lucky enough to really get a massive bonus, but yes, the bonus that comes with it, and then the wee trips make the whole idea of going to Europe so much better.
Yeah, but the whole you associate the Irish Cup with a sunny day at Windsor. Ours couldn't have been further from it.
Oh, yeah,
it was a horrible day at the Oval.
Yeah,
but it was, as you say, it's the whole buzz. For weeks leading up to it, the suits and the arrangements and your meeting here and team buses and all this carry on and
breakfast before. You can never get breakfast. Well, you probably do now. It becomes more professional now.
Back then, it was different.
We'll go somewhere for breakfast, have wee eggs and toast. It's brilliant. We do.
And then you're doing the analysis and stuff like that. Which, in fairness, Tiernan and Seamus Lynch and obviously Eddie and Big Chew, who were the management then, they were all they were well before their time. In terms of their professionalism and their approach.
Yeah.
The analysis that they would have done even back then, which, as you say, it's still quite it's obviously a semi-professional league, but it was very, very semi-professional in the overall approach. So, it's probably only again reflecting, I probably didn't really appreciate, what they were doing at that time.
Yeah.
I think when you're young, it's just, just go out and play, and talk about systems and patterns of play and whatever else, but it's the Irish League, just go out and kick your man and whatever else. So I say it probably didn't. It's only now when I think back how, and it's no surprise to see where they've gone on, and I've no doubt that they'll continue to be a huge success in the game. But even that morning, John, I remember our base was the Ramada at Shaw's Bridge, and we met there for pre-match, whatever it is, and got the bus then, and obviously it was at the Oval, so we came down the Newton Yards Road, and the bars and the people outside and the fleurs and the Glens, and I remember just saying to myself, we are not losing today.
Yeah.
We are not losing. Just incredible. The support, and that was first thing. People just gargled and 10 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock in the morning, whatever else, and it was a class. The goosebump. Even thinking back now, just the goosebump stand or hers in the back of my neck standing up. But it was a great day. As you say, then it leads on to Europe, and Europe is a class experience.
It is.
And I say probably again more so back then because in many cases it was a bit of a piss up.
Yeah.
The initiations and the new players integrating and whatever else. And remember we went to Iceland after that Irish Cup win, and I think we flew through Heathrow or London or whatever it was, and the chairman gave everyone, let's say, 20 quid to go and get yourself something to eat, and 2 people went to the restaurant, and the rest of the squad basically went in the duty free, and it was just bottles of Morgan's, bottles of Pag, whatever. But like that's what you're up, and that's no word of a lie. You had the likes of Miskey, Jay McGee, Willie Garrett, Hogg, boys like that, and they said, I'm not spending 20 quid. I'm going to get myself.
Yeah,
right,
and they're bottles.
And we actually had a good. We drew, I think it was 0 each out there in Iceland, which was a really good result. And see, it just that positivity just then, it just filters on the Irish Cup, and I think then we got duffed in the second leg, but good experience.
It is.
Good experience.
You actually see the level, like the way it can change quickly when you play against people. You're like, we're good, and then it's like, ooh, we're miles off it.
Yeah.
And it quickly settles in. They were like our league is different.
Yeah.
But it's magical, like going away, the stand, the stadiums, living away like a professional for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Especially if you're not used to it.
Yeah.
It just changes your mindset of what it's like to be a football.
Yeah, definitely.
So, one thing I wanted to talk to you about before we got to that stage is you had quite a turnover of managers at the Glens. How difficult was that for you, or was it strange? Because obviously you had Scott there who had probably a good influence in you and getting in the team and the trust to give you your contract and different things like that. And then you have, I think, there was a guy from down south, and the name is Kernahan.
Alan Kernahan.
What was he like? It just creeps up, and I couldn't. I remember being there for a short period of time, and I was like, God, he's not going to last.
No. So Scotty, as I say, he was the one that rewarded me my contract, but I never actually played under Scotty. So I signed the previous summer. And then that was the infamous cup defeat by Newton in the January.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And then Scotty, God love him, he had some health issues with his, I think he was taking, heart issues during the game, whatever else. So he stepped aside, and Mr. Coyle came in, and what an absolute legend of the game. Bumped into him. We'd played the Glens in pre-season there, and always so much time shaking hands, and you always just see him as the boss, and whatever else. So it was actually Roy Coyle who gave me my debut.
Right, okay.
So it was, and I think I'm almost sure it was against Cliftonville. Came on the second half anyway, and then went from there. But I think there was during my time at the Glens, I think I played under 12 managers. So it was almost more than Yeah,
So you want a season?
Yeah, and now that includes Roy Coyle, who was obviously only an interim.
Yes.
So there was a lot, and a vast array of different styles, different personalities. Roy Coyle, Ronald McFall, to as you say, then Alan Kernan, Gary Haverin, young up and coming managers. So new managers come in, it's part and parcel of the game. In most cases, they come in because the team's going badly.
Yes.
You know what it's like, Johnny. Every new manager comes in and says you aren't fit enough and runs for the first couple of weeks.
Yes. Pre-seasons every 6 months. Stinging.
Roy Coyle, whatever happened, I can't remember if it was the first or second time he came in, but he said you're nowhere near fit enough. So that was fine. But the first weekend, there was no game. And he then said, right, we're training Saturday morning at Stormont. All right, and you know Stormont, obviously, the hills. Right, great. So went up to Stormont and took us to the steepest part of the incline and says, right, sprint up. But he says, see when you get to the top, you're sprinting back down. And we were all looking at each other going like, why? And he said, sprinting back down works on your quick feet. Sprinting down a hill. This was his school of thought. And you were running, I'm not joking, you had the big roots of the trees. And like it was totally unsafe. Like the ground was crazy. And you thought then that was you. Go again.
Just up and down.
And he said, right, I'll see you back to the Oval for a shower. So then he was clever. He got back to the Oval first. We all got into the changing room. And he says, right, get your boots on, out in the pitch. And more running out in the Oval pitch. And, just really trying to, worry you down. But, I didn't mind the running side of it. I actually quite enjoyed it. Not the short, sharp stuff, but the longer stuff, I actually wasn't too bad at that. So, I say a lot of managers, I had a really good relationship with pretty much every manager I played at the Glens and away from the Glens. The only real issue was with Alan Kernahan.
Right.
No,
it's not, we didn't prime this, so let's just tell people here, like, I just wanted to know about this guy, because I know there's been a gap of people who have came in, and nobody that I've had on has actually played under.
Right.
But I can remember him coming in as part of Glens, obviously at me being a Ballymena, and I was like, and it didn't last long.
Yeah.
But I remember his name was like Kernan, but I don't know anything about him, so this is not planned.
He had a very impressive CV. He played in the Premier League. So he did. I'm almost sure he played in the Premier League. So, but it was still coming in. So he, if I'm right in saying, then Eddie, he came in after Eddie Patterson. Eddie, shouldn't have been sacked at that stage. The job that Eddie done along with his staff too, and Seamus and Tiernan for the resources that he had was nothing short of incredible.
Yeah,
and I think that's I think the club will probably admit that. A lot of people will say, listen, we were too quick to pull the trigger with Eddie. So Alan came in, a more new school approach. Was quite, I think I was, the first part of him coming in, I had glandular fever. And I was basically told I couldn't play football for like 3 or 4 months. So already I was kind of on the back foot. You know what it's like, new manager comes in and you're not available. So you're struggling. Now, I think he was there. I think Eddie gets sacked in October. Now, I could be wrong, just thinking. And he then came in and got back playing anyway and whatever else. And I remember we were away, we'd qualified for the European playoff. So we'd beat Coleraine up there, and I actually scored up there. What a finish, by the way.
Right.
You had to check that one out. But I got booked that game, so I missed. We played Cliftonville. Now, Glens always seem to play Cliftonville in the playoff final for like about 3 out of 4 years. I don't know what it was, but it always seemed to be Glens Cliftonville. And cut a long story short, anyway, we lost the playoff final, so didn't get into Europe. And that summer, then we got called in then for a kind of end of season meeting or whatever it was, given off-season plans and whatever else, and there's me sitting with my hand out, none was but my hand. I was like, right, so called in the office anyway and put you on the transfer list. And
so he's deciding to do this?
He's decided.
Okay.
And that was fine. There was no, I took it, I didn't argue with him. It was his decision, it was his opinion and whatever else, and that went out there. And I think it was like a Tuesday or Thursday night, but I went on to have one of the best nights out of my life. After we left the Oval, me and Willie Garrett, we ended up at Galdi in Thompson's, and I think Galdi was with Mark McIntosh.
Right, okay.
So this was perfect, and I was telling Mark whatever else, and I think then it was, it kind of came out then a day or two after, and I had a couple of offers.
Macintosh in the paper
straight in. So me and him and Thompson's, we were drafted up in Thompson's, the warden, and we, as I say, so then at that stage I thought, I'd been at the Glens in a number of years. I loved the club. And, at that stage, I probably then started to think, right, listen, I never see myself all being well.
Yeah.
I never see myself, I want to stay here for as long as I can. So, and then I started to think, right, listen, I could be moving on here, and a couple of, I had good offers, from elsewhere. And then I got a call, like I spoke to, I think it was Cliftonville and Coleraine at the time, and who were both going much better in the Glen. So if arguably it would have been
a step in the right direction,
a good move for me. And whatever happened then, I remember getting a phone call from the club to say, listen, you're not going anywhere. And I was like, right, no problem. So at that stage then, after that phone call, it was like, right, clean slate here. I'm going to work hard in the off season. I'm going to go back pre-season, hopefully as fit as I can be, and with a point to prove. And he, I think that was the summer then Nacho arrived.
Yes.
And Alan then lost his job. I'm almost sure it was the end of August. We went and one of the cups, we were away to the Anna and got beat 3-2 that night. And if you ever played at Anna, we walked the change rooms. I remember the Glen men just jumping over, shouting abuse at Alan. So I knew then it was going to be at Curtains. That was going to be him. So he went, and then that was the quite unusual period, because the whittled it down to Nacho, who was a player, and Gary Haven.
Yes.
And Nacho's obviously still a player. Great guy, by the way.
Yes.
Big character. You've probably seen him out a couple of times.
Well, we ended up going out. I ended up on one of your team days out.
Right.
In Lavery's. And
was it a Sunday?
Ended up blinded eye, but Nacho was there and
Benedict
had him in a headlock all day, and then we went across and they were like, why are you here? I was like, I don't know. It's just Nacho stayed there all day, but it was like he's like adopted me in for the day, and we were out all night.
He was
so much fun.
He was a great guy.
Yeah.
You had this image of him that we thought he was going to come in and just keep himself to himself. But he was kind of private, but at the same time, he was full of crack, he was full of advice, really good with players, offering, helping them, training, whatever else. So he had obviously went for the job, and I think, I don't know how true this is, but I think he was basically told, listen, the job's yours. And then Gary Haven was announced, and Gary Haven is probably the nicest guy. I say yourself, obviously, but
I have to say that here. It's fine.
Gary Haven is probably one of the best guys I've met in football. Still keep in touch with him.
And at this stage too, Gaz had hair.
Gaz
actually seen a throwback to like 2006.
No, it was starting to go.
He had a wee bit of a sideburn.
He did,
but it was on the way.
Top. It was starting to go a bit on a windy day. So Gaz came in, and just you saw what you got what you saw in Gary Haven. He just poured his heart and soul. And I think he'll probably say this himself. He had came from Carrick, where he was used to basically being a one man band. They brought Millsy in, who's another great guy, but he was now at Glentoran, and whilst that was far from where the old Glentoran teams were,
yes,
it was still Glentoran, and Gary Haven was running about, filling water bottles, doing straps, doing team talks, picking teams. He was just trying to do everything.
Yeah.
And taking training, and that's when things were, we were training here, there, and everywhere. We're down in Larne training, we're at Ballysilm, we're
anywhere where you can get a
anywhere where you can get a pits, and the club had no money to. Yeah. So he came in and done I thought a really good job. It was difficult, obviously, trying to attract players, sign some good players, whatever else. And as I said, I had so much time for Gary Haven, what he done for me personally. And that was during the time then. I think my contract was up the end of that season. And it was, he offered me a new deal and got all that sorted. And just such a nice guy. And again, got on and delighted to see, what he's doing at the moment. He's just a real good person.
He is, and he's a great coach.
Great coach
in terms of what he does around the players. He was there with us, with Seamus and Tiernan at Larne.
Yep.
And the way he managed the coaching side of things, some of the sessions were
brilliant.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
And he's a real... Players like him. You know, he's a good way about him.
He can have a conversation with
you. Yeah. So he's a good man manager, and as I say, whilst, you know, ultimately, I thought under the circumstances, he'd done a good job. He obviously ended up losing his job, but it doesn't surprise me now to see that he's, you know,
doing well.
He's doing so well, and I'm delighted for him.
He's coasting under the radar too. Like, Larne are flying at the minute.
Flying?
No one really seems to be giving them a bit of a chat, so he must be in a really good place at the moment.
I would say so, and that they've played that card to their advantage. You know, everyone was talking about Linfield, Glens, Coleraine.
It's very consistent about Coleraine too, and you're sitting going like...
And rightly so, by the way, the boys spend. You know, they've went onto the radar. I think now the pressure's going to ramp up. I think they play the Glens Irish Cup.
Yes, so this one probably won't be out, but yes, tomorrow night, which would be Tuesday, this semi-final.
The semi-final, but the Glens Larne in the league, I think that's coming up. I think that's the next league game, and then I think the Glens Larne play each other again before the split, and then in the split. So, you know, if they get through that unscathed, then you think then that's... I suppose I still don't think they're home and hosed.
No, definitely.
But, you know, they've done... And even... Obviously, I don't know when this was going out, but the, you know, Saturday, just that resilience, you know, 2-0 up, 2 each then, you think maybe they're going to cave in, and then they go on in the game comfortably. So,
against Crusaders.
They are, you know, they're doing well.
They're a good outfit, and they're getting people back at a really good time.
Yeah.
Andy Rand's just filtered back in.
What
it's like having a new player. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's been out for months, do you know what I mean? And now he just drops in, scores a few goals, settles himself.
And he's never been away.
Yeah. So these things are nice. Plus they've added a few with Ronan Doherty signing, which is a mad signing. Ronan Doherty is one of the best midfielders in the league, and you're saying, like, you're taking them off people in second place.
Yeah. And I think Ronan Doherty, to me, is just a Larne player.
Yes.
You know, the way they play and the way he plays.
He'll just sweep along that back.
Smashing player. Just so calm, composed, great in the ball, simple, lovely left foot. And, you know, I think he signed and he was straight in the team.
It makes sense.
It makes sense.
Fantastic.
So, you know, they've signed well. And I think that big centre-half's done, the guy Ridley or whatever, I think he's done really well. Because, again, people don't really talk about Bolger. Hasn't kicked a ball this season, and he was a mainstay and such a big part of their team. Andy Ran, obviously, as you talked about as well. So they've done well.
Not to go too far off now, we don't really care about Larne, we care about Calum Birney. So let's bring it back. You're in at the Glens. Gaz has given you a new deal.
Yep.
You've obviously signed maybe another 2 years, and then within that period, Gaz is obviously going to go.
Yep.
Another manager's in. You're probably sitting going, "I wish Gaz dead." But how does that materialise for you?
At this stage, Johnny, you become accustomed and used to the turnover of managers. So it's almost a case, all right, listen, here we go again. A reset for everyone. Players that maybe Gaz didn't fancy or wasn't playing, all of a sudden then you see them pick up in training because it's just a clean slate for everyone, and you get that initial bounce. Trying to think then, was it maybe Gary Smith?
He came from the Welders.
He came from the Welders.
East Belfast or
something. No, there was the whole thing. It was that kind of trio of him, Leaper,
yes,
and Ronnie McFall.
To do with a badge or something.
Do with a badge. And I think Ronnie was going to come in basically for until the end of the season.
Yes.
Subject to maybe, I think if Europe, which probably was very unlikely, but just to tick that box, I think then he had the qualifications or whatever for Europe if we're qualified or whatever like that. So again, going back, being a Glen man, watching Leaper and Gary Smith, I thought this was, you know,
class.
I thought it was class, yeah. And to, you know the game inside out, everything they said, you know, I was just like, right, listen, if there's anyone, you know, I'm going to work hard for and do it for, it's these two men, because, you know, Glentoran was their club and what they'd achieved and, you know, how much success they had. So, I think even, you know, I think Elliot was the captain, and then he had kind of handed the armband down to Moko, and then I think I was vice captain in a lot of games and stuff from Gary Smith and Leaper, and which was a great honour for me and things like that. So they came in, if I'm right in saying, I'm not sure if I've skipped someone out there, but obviously they came in under Ronnie, and then obviously the kind of start and the end was a bit messy because they came in under Ronnie, and then at the end, obviously, they were basically, the investment was happening, and they were
Gone.
They were basically gone then, which I think was pretty poor at the time, but obviously for the greater good of the club, you know, it badly needed the investment, and along came Mr. McDermott.
Mr. McDermott, Mad Mick, as some would refer to Mick, do you know what I mean? But this is the way it had to go, because Ali Pur was obviously a contact from Mick.
Yep.
And this was the whole idea of them going in, potentially going full time with Glens and all this sort of stuff.
Yep.
So what was that turnover like? Whenever you kind of first hear about investment, it does happen quite quick, because it's like, this is potentially going to happen. It's
crazy.
Boom, done.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh God, Ali's now bought the club. And it's in charge.
Yeah.
Wendy's at the helm, and we're all here.
Yeah. And that's pretty much what happened. And, you know, knowing the Glens, there's always been, you know, wee leakage of information and scandals along the way, whatever else. And I think it was almost a week before.
Yeah.
It was said in the children that there's a takeover happening, and it's basically going to happen next week or whatever it was. And I was like, wow. So that happened, and listen, it marked an exciting
journey,
beginning of a new Glentoran. And they had the initial, you know, obviously I wasn't part of it for too long. So I think Mick came in, I think it was 2019. I think his first game was like away to Dundela, and that was like on the April. And then I went the following January, but, you know, it was foot down here, and, you know, it wasn't a kind of gradual thing. It was just, you know,
implementing changes done. Like, this is the way Glens going to go back to this way.
Yeah. And the amount of change, you know, even around the oval, they put in the gym, all the best of equipment. Some of the players that were saying, it was just like, wow, this is, you know, it's incredible how quickly things have happened here. And as I say, the caliber of player that was coming to the club was you know, brilliant. You know, it was far better than what it had been for years. So, you know, as I say, I had no. When at the start of the season, and I think I came through pre-season or whatever else, and I think then I broke down my groin like the end of August, whatever it was, and I missed a couple of months, and then I got back playing like the December time, just before Christmas, whatever it was. And that's, I think that 19-20 season was obviously the one that was curtailed with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
We beat Linfield in Boxing Day, 3-0 or whatever it was. And it was just like, you know,
we're on the one here.
We're on the one here. And then it quickly unravelled over them couple of weeks just before COVID, and the league wrapped up. I think the Glens ended up then, the way they stopped the league and just left the positions. And I think the Glens were fourth or fifth or whatever it was. But I think beating Linfield in Boxing Day, and was like, went to top of the league or very close to it, and I was like, you know, this could happen here. I think it was on the bench that Boxing Day, and then we played Ballymena on the game in around New Year's, whenever it was, New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, whatever it was, and that was actually the 200th appearance, and I thought, you know, had a decent game. I was like, right, listen, hopefully now, you know, I'm back in the fold, can contribute, you know. Like you top player, you know, Paddy McLean came in, and I think Paddy McLean was unbelievable centre half, you know, for the Irish League. He could play, he was nasty,
isn't he?
But he could do it all. You know, he was a hard defender, tackling, heading, strong, whatever else, but he could play as well. He had come in, and so then January, obviously transfer window opened, and as far as I was concerned, there was
no movement for you. You were happy.
Yeah, I was here, still in a contract, whatever else, and I remember Mick pulling me then and saying, listen, you know, you've missed a lot of football. He says that I want you to go out and loan from now to the end of the season and just play games and come back then ready to fight for your place in pre-season. And I said, yeah, well, listen, fair enough. You know, we'll go with that. And I'd agreed to go and loan to Carrick with Al Curry. And then that was all basically done, happening. I'd agreed with Al, a couple of good conversations. And then next thing, just got a phone call to say, right, you're going to Glenavon. And I was like, on loan or what's going on here? No, you're that's you, kind of thing. So that happened pretty quickly, and that was the bit that was hard to take for me, to be honest, because I thought I still had a future at the Glens. Then all of a sudden being told, well, you're
within the space of a couple of days, just like
couple of days,
yeah.
And they were trying to get, so as part of the deal, and I don't know what way it was, but basically I was going to Glenavon, Calum Birney, who's, don't get me wrong, class player, and Big Mitch was coming the other way. So obviously the Glens wanted them in, and then they threw me the other way. So it was literally a case of there's no future for you here at the club, so it's up to you. Do you want to just sit and play in the reserves, or do you want to go to the Glenavon? So Glenavon, Mr. Gaz then, but
Hamilton,
who obviously I knew and stuff, and then spoke with him, and listen, it was a no-brainer. I was very fortunate. I was very, I was excited then by moving to Glenavon and working under him. And Glenavon were, they were a good side. They'd some really, really good players, so that's how I came about.
See, towards that spell, just before you leave the Glens.
Yep.
You've been there, as we've touched on, like all in, must be close to 10 years. Like it must be in and around as a professional from an 18, fair enough, right up. For the club to deal with that situation the way it was, is pretty poor.
Okay, listen, it's football, Johnny, and I think because I probably still do, Glentoran's my club, that way, and I think it was probably bitterness from me and probably jealousy too, thinking
I could still be there.
These boys are looking, as if they can go and win a league here. Like, I've been through really tough times. I had that wee experience of the Irish Cup, which was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I said, can you imagine if I was part, and I'd not even, just played a bit part, I would carry the water bottles to win a league for Glentoran, do you know what I mean? So, to even be in the squad, and I think there was probably a bit of resentment from me initially. Now, I understand, football's football, and people move on, and you are just a number at the end of the day, and me going was ultimately to strengthen the club, which now in hindsight, I feel like Calum Birney is a far better player than me. So it was just, I suppose, how it was dealt with. Yes, but 100%. It was, there was, I suppose, from me there was initial hard feeling, and as I say, a bit of resentment. But I think that was more that I wanted to be part of a successful Glentoran too. But listen, it wasn't to be, and I was very lucky then to move on to another great club in Glenavon. So it's not as if then it was a case of I had nowhere to go, and I was out of options. So one door closed, but obviously another one opened.
How was your time at Glenavon with Gary? Because Gary's, it's hard to put an actual word on Gary. He's special. Like, people don't understand the man that is Gary Hamilton as much as the people who get to spend time with him. But incredible person, great coach, and very successful in what he's done too.
Yeah, unreal. So, Gaz, he lived and breathed football. He could. His memory always struck me. Just he could always recall, a match or a game or a player, whatever like that. So, my initial couple of years, I was thinking, this move is just cursed, because I came in great. What a great win! Wayne Ballymena, my debut 3-0, and second game we got beat 8-1 by Linfield at Windsor. And it's Robbie Garrett's fault, by the way. So we were 3-0 down at Windsor after 19 minutes, and you notice, like, massive pitch, tough at the best of times, and you just see that big scoreboard, and all you can hear is that the announcer, "Go for Linfield."
It's the same guy.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And then so we're 3-0 down, and then Ribsy decides to have a go at the referee, and he gets sent off. So we're 3-0 down to 10 men after 19 minutes at Windsor, going to get beat 8. There was the next. We played the Glens actually twice in 3 weeks or something like that. But there was a gentleman's agreement where I couldn't play for Glenavon, and Mitch and Myron couldn't play for the Glens. So I missed them a couple of weeks. I think there was one more game, and then obviously COVID. So that's where you start to see the best of Gary.
Yeah,
the FaceTimes during COVID. And then new season started. There was real optimism. Coatsy signed. Couple of, Peter Campbell signed. I think Vic Fitzy had signed at that stage. Would assembled a good group. And we got spanked the first day against Portadown. And I think I played 3 more games. And then I broke down my groin again, ended up needing an operation, and was out for 5-6 months, whatever it was. So we went through, first season was first part was obviously COVID. And then the second season was obviously then
behind closed doors thing where you're back.
That one, and then I had the operations. I was out for a load of months. I was like, this is desperate. And then got myself back. That pre-season then was like Waterworth, Hawks, and staff signs, and again, and that's Gary Hamilton's just ability to
sign people,
to sign players. He's always done it, and he's still doing it for Ballymacash. He's just got that.
I think people have this perception of him where they want to play for him.
Yeah,
because I think ultimately they're able to see what he's done previous, but his connection with people and how he deals with the person, makes you want to not help him out, but just experience it or something. I don't know, because there's many times he's had a phone. He phoned me. It was quite funny actually. He phoned me just before I signed for Ballymena, and pretty much the whole time on the phone he told me how useless I was recently, and how that I need to rejuvenate my career. And Lucy's in the front seat, and Lucy's looking at me what the fuck is this guy doing? Why is he doing this? And then he's like, max 120 quid. And I just hung up. It's you're no way. And then he phones you a couple weeks later, being like, congratulations on your move, Ballymena. Just chancing me on, I'm hoping to get you down. And you're going you can't not like him.
No, he's a special character. And as we touched on earlier, what a player. He still played a couple of games, and he had a good eye for a player. And again, working with probably a restricted budget too, at a certain extent, at Glenavon, he's always dipping in the southern market.
Kids and talent, kids, youth, and
definitely, big in youth, and he good people around him as well. So, it was hard to see the end. At Glenavon, because he loved and breathed that club. Still, sure he still does, but Wade went through a real sticky patch, real tough patch. And there's Glenavon have the Glenavon stewards that they're called, which are all volunteers and brilliant people about the club who do all the stewarding on match days, and just such nice people. There's only a small group of them.
Yeah.
But they have an annual dinner, and it's usually around February. And the stewards, it's always one of the ones that you look forward to. It's always a great night, and free bar and food's good and whatever else, just really well looked after. So during that kind of sticky patch, we had played Newry that day, and I think we'd, I don't know, 10 of games or something out of win, whatever else. I think the Welders put us out of the cup the week before, whatever else, and we played Newry, got beat 2-0 at home, and Gaz was, he was getting pelters and stuff, and it was hard, and we had that stewards dinner that night, and he came in after, obviously done the grilling after the match, whatever else, and he said, now, not use the exact language, but he said, every one of you that are said you're going tonight. He said, you're not letting them people down. He said, don't care about what's happened here, but you're going out of respect to them people that are good to use. So we went in, what it's like, first pint, everyone's still, looking down the glass, second pint,
nobody wants
to start to see a wee smirk, and then next thing 3-4 pints, everyone's
back
jolly, and we had a brilliant night, and we ended up back in Gaz's house, believe it or not, at silly o'clock in the morning, and just the togetherness, boys were maybe hammering each other, but it was for the greater good.
Yes.
We went to the Oval on Tuesday night. I think we drew 0 each, and then basically went on a long unbeaten run. And we're, so you just remember wee moments. I say from sitting in Gary Allen's kitchen then to going on this unbeaten run
streak,
the winning streak, and but yeah, noticing great person, and what a podcast he done with you as well.
Yes.
What a special listen. It was incredible honest, story, and one that I'm sure captured a lot of.
It definitely reached out to a lot of people. The messages that myself and Alan received from numerous accounts saying that they're going to get help or whatever. It's testament to him too, because he was that open.
Yep.
If you know him, and he's probably one of the most unknown people because he didn't do media for a long time. He refused to do it. He kind of stayed away from everybody, and people kind of just took this person, this enigma, and he's just a whatever he is. And I think him and being around him, that he's just completely honest, and it doesn't. He doesn't try to do it to hurt you.
Yep.
That's just him being brutally honest, and then you take it as whatever way you take it. Do you know what I mean? But I love it. I think he's refreshing. Any time he phones me, I just start smiling because I know there's something coming. And you're like, it's going to be honest. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Whether it's about me or whether it's about podcast or something, people are gay.
But it's funny, it's I feel sorry for us too, especially I know Calum is playing at Ballymacash, and when your dad's Gary Hamilton, I feel so sorry. And football point of view, because it's like Spike, I play with Spike there, the Duns, great player, but it's always when your dad's Gary Hamilton or Glenn Ferguson, it's like you're always just going to be in your dad's footsteps. So, but they're two lovely boys as well, Calum and Corey. So, I hope him and Maggers have a
fantastic time of it.
Have a good.
Well, they just won the Stadium Sun, so
that was brilliant.
First trophy.
Do you know
what I mean? Never won it before, so.
And then with the restructuring of the league, is that if it's still happening, about the 4 teams coming up, so there's a chance then to get into the
PIL.
Yeah, so
and they're definitely going to fit the criteria to jump in there. So
other facilities are amazing.
Well, I'm hoping to, as we spoke about before, maybe go down and utilise something to try and see how their knee ponies up. But okay, he's been fantastic for me. He's so refreshing. Yeah, I love him. Yeah, but in terms of you then coming to the end of that sort of sticky patch, everything sort of unravels for Glenavon. Yep. They obviously go for a change.
Yep.
Are you still there when Paddy comes in?
Steve McDonald.
Steve McDonald.
So he came in young, fresh manager again. Nothing but good words to say about Stevie.
Fantastic.
Probably the coach that I learned most about the game.
Yes.
Just his analysis and the in-depth, work that he would have done, individually, collectively, and at every training session, he would have done a presentation before every training session to say what we're doing. Just the level of detail was incredible. A really, really nice guy. Wanted to play the right way, which maybe was to his downfall at times. So I think Stevie was there, him and Big Simon were there for maybe a year or whatever it was. Towards the end of that Stevie's season, I'd ended up needing an issue in my knee then, so it'd always been my groin, and then next thing I started to get this pain in my knee and just wasn't going away, and every game then my knee was just going crazy, and I said, right, listen, I'm going to have to get this seen to, and at the Cardi's tears, then that was my season cut short. So I think it finished maybe start of April or end of March, whatever it was, and the went to see the surgeon. He said, listen, it's probably an operation here, but you can leave it, and do the kind of rehab, the kind of conservative approach, or you can get it cleaned out and get it fixed up. So I was actually getting married the following month, so going down in a knee brace or whatever. Wasn't the best look. So and then obviously we're away on honeymoon and whatever else. So kind of left it. And you was doing the strength work, whatever else, and it decided it wasn't getting any better. So then I went in, got the operation, but I think I only got the operation kind of the week before pre-season started. Yeah. So then I missed a large chunk of pre-season. So again, playing a bit again, catch up, and we, that's probably I came back, and then so I think I came back from a knee operation. Maybe November time, whatever it was, and that was the infamous then a train basically on the Thursday night. It was my first session back with the team again, that way. So obviously you do your own work for a couple of weeks and work with a physio and stuff like that. So on the Thursday night I trained once, and I actually went to Stevie after and said, listen, do you want me to go on or the reserve training on Saturday? or have they got a game on Saturday? Could I go and think, obviously just thinking that I'm nowhere near going to be first team.
Yes.
And he says, no, you're with us on Saturday. And he says, if we're playing Coleraine, and he says, you're either going to come on one end of the pitch. He said, if we're losing or drawing, or losing and throwing you on up front, and if we need someone ugly to go on head and kick it to see a game out, you're going on centre half. So I laughed and thinking, but he was deadly serious. So then anyway, and that was then the game we were playing Coleraine. Threw me on up top 10 minutes ago, and I scored the equaliser against Deansy. What a finish, by the way. What a finish. Another great finish. And genuinely that's how it went. He had said that on the Thursday. And it's but I say, really, really good guy. I've no doubt that he'll be back.
Yes, 100%.
In management. I don't think that's going to derail him from his long-term ambitions.
So passionate. I actually met him in Windsor Park after Paddy and stuff. I ended up going 6 or 7, and I think it was the Irish Cup. It's the Irish Cup final, and he was just chatting away, and he's just like, I'm just waiting, like pretty much just biding my time because something's going to pop up. Yeah, and he's like, I'm ready to go back in.
Yeah,
it's like,
and he will be, and you see, he was a good player clearly as well, and obviously his injury killed his career, but no way you just see some manager strike the ball and train.
You've hit a ball. Like.
You could see his strike was just on the money. Lovely strike the ball, but so Stevie went, and then Paddy came in, and I said I only really had played a game or two or whatever, and Paddy came in and again on paper, one appointment.
Yeah, 100%.
Great CV, great reputation in the game, whatever else, done really well. Cliftonville had them flying, had them playing well, whatever else, and there was a real buzz amongst Glenavon, players, fans, everyone.
I think even generally the league was like, that's a class appointment for Glenavon. Like everybody from the outside of Glenavon was like, he'll do really well.
Yeah. So he came in, and we were playing Dungannon in the Mid-Ulster, and we met to meet him because the game was on a Tuesday night. So we met at the wee hotel down in Dungannon for a bit of an introduction to him, because there was no time for training but before the game, whatever else. And then announced the team, and he threw me straight in. And he's a really good. I think Paddy's one that when he talks, like you're ready to go. So he'd named the team, and he'd went through everyone and just said, "Listen, you're in because you're the best, finisher in the league." Just then we comments, and you felt 10 foot tall.
Pick you up, yeah.
So he came in, and I was, I was excited then to work with him, work with Coach Coatsy. I think is a great guy, had a great career, and he obviously was at Glenavon for a period as well, and I was friend enough of Coatsy too. So I knew that there was a huge amount that I could learn from these guys, and played Dungannon on the Tuesday. But I say that was my first start in 6 months, 7 months, whatever it was. And then I played Portadown on the Saturday and started again. And then McGroin went like 20 minutes ago. And I was like, it's just seeing the exact same thing, the right groin. And it's always been put down, that osseous pubis thing. And let's say horrible thing, Johnny. I know some boys that have been through it, and it's just so up and down. So you can feel fine, and then next thing, just bang, you're back to square one. So that was Paddy, and then that's when I really, I suppose that's when mine and Paddy's relationship really actually became closer, because that was probably the point where then I started going, listen, I need to seriously think about this, because I'm no use to anyone here. You get all them feelings, you feel guilty, you take money, you're not playing, you're missing more games. Glenavon was a fantastic club in terms of, supporting me through operations and scans and injections and all things like that. And you just feel scundered.
Yeah, I get
that way. So I think it was maybe I then went back to see the consultant that operated on me, and he said, listen, this isn't going away, pretty much. So my advice would be, I'm going to fill you up with injections. And he said, I'm going to do 3. He said, and this is basically the last throw of the dice. He said, after this, there's not much more I can do. And that's probably then where you have to think about what you want to do kind of thing. So the most horrendous injection I've ever got in my life, one of them. So, and then 2 more. So, that, again, it gives you the wee...
Is it right in? So are you like, you know, like smear type thing? Are you up?
No.
And then in? Or what?
No, so I'm lying flat.
Okay.
And they're just going in very, very central.
Straight in?
Very central.
So you're... Oh, right, okay.
And you can see...
I had a horrible picture of you up like 2 legs away, and then he's trying to get shit out of it. Well,
yeah, don't worry. So that was... And you're obviously... You're looking down, you see everything, you see the needle, and like, yeah, horrendous. So, listen, I would get it 100 times if it worked. But so say that's when the conversation that I valued Paddy's relationship so much, because I had so many one-to-one conversations with him and just told him where I was at, how I was feeling, and whatever else. And he was very honest with me, but brilliant in how he dealt with me and how he spoke with me and his advice. And I'll never forget, to be honest, what the conversations that me and him had. So that was I put all my cards on the table and said, right, this is it. This is my last go with this here, and if we break down, then that's well, he had talked about his own career and said, listen, once I got to 30, my body just started giving up. I came away from worrying about money and winning things, and I went and joined Institute and played with my mates. And he said, we'd played on the Saturday, manager said, right, listen, maybe see you on Thursday or whatever, and just played. And he said it was the best part of his career. So he said, listen, I'm not pushing you out. He said, make no mistake about it, if you're fit, I want you here, but for your best interest as well, I want to be honest with you as well and put out, and I appreciate that's what I wanted, just honesty. And so that was kind of January. Got them injections, and I said, right, if I break down between now and then the season, that's me. And like, I had another year left at Glenavon on my contract, but I said, I'm not doing this for another year, because he was well talked about. He was doing the 3 nights, and as much as always Glenavon had a great car school. Yeah. Every time I had great people. So at the start I had Andy Hall, Doyler and Skimmer, 3 brilliant fellas, and then towards the end Skimmer was obviously still there, Quinny and Dave McDermott.
Yeah.
But it's hard, up and down that road 3 nights, and you're rushing home from work straight down 10 o'clock to not even train, to not even feel part of it. So came back and came through all my kind of one-to-one physio work, felt great, and thought,
all right, yeah,
I feel good here. And then joined back in the training Tuesday. I think came through Tuesday, and then Thursday I broke down again. And I was just like, everything just sunk out of me. I was like, this is it, kind of thing. I remember then I went straight in. I was dead, not but just dead emotional. Not just feeling just this is tough, like, to take. And I went straight down to the office and spoke to Paddy and coach and said, right, listen, that's me finished. And we had again, really good conversation with them too, just bouncing off each other. And I went in just, feeling just completely deflated. And even though the circumstances, I came out feeling
better
about things. And we agreed there and then that was, I was going at the end of the season. And, Paddy then said, listen, I think with a game, it was the second last game of the season, and then we're away to Carrick, the last game of the season. And he said, listen, have a think about this, but do you want to go on the bench against Carrick? And I said, I'll play the last 5 minutes, and then just gave you a wee bit of closure. So even wee gestures like that,
it's nice,
just meant the world to me. And, so I knew, obviously, it allowed me to come to terms with it a wee bit, and went to Carrick, and 2 kids were there, wife was there, mum, dad were there, and whatever else, and we allowed me to play my last couple of minutes in the Irish League, which was obviously love to still be playing, but under the circumstances, it was just a lovely way to finish. And as I said, nothing but respect for Paddy.
It's such a nice way, such a nice gesture for someone, and I think you're probably only going to get that from people who have actually played the game, and the fact that he's went and done that.
He'd been through it.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, he'd been through it himself. So he was able to give me his personal side of things. And some managers just say, right, listen, you're
done. That's you. Just stay away. Type thing.
good luck, all the best kind of thing. Whereas, you know, I even though I didn't play, like I played, I think 3 times for Paddy or whatever it was, but he made me feel as if like I was his star man.
Yeah.
Like I scored 30 goals from a season and whatever else. So, top guy.
Whenever you decided your time's up and you're sort of looking back on your time at Glenavon, it's constant injuries.
Yeah.
And not to be down here, but mentally that must have been like life sucking for you, like constantly battling to get back, to go back. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's one of the hardest things.
It's so difficult. And I say the nature of this, thankfully, touch wood, I never had an ACL, but sometimes I look back and say, why couldn't I just done, you know, broke my leg or something like that? Because it just would have been clean.
Done in 6 months and back, yeah.
Whereas I remember the consultant saying to me, he said, listen, this isn't an injury, this is a condition, and it's not going away, you know, that way. So it was so difficult because you could feel great and then just bang and you're back to square one, and just all them, you know, the guilt and the, you know, just the annoyance and the anger of not being able to contribute. And as I say, what I said earlier on is, as you know, when you're not playing, you don't feel part of it.
No, you don't.
At all. And then you go in the change room after a win and everyone's jumping about and you don't feel part of it. And then equally you feel like I always hated getting in the change room not playing once they lost.
Yeah.
Because I think some people maybe went in with their chest going, you know, if I was playing kind of thing, whereas I felt every bit of pain even though I wasn't playing, you know, that way. So, but yeah, listen, I think I played near 100 times for Glenavon and you know, a couple of great, you know, played, Portadown at Shamrock, went down to 9 men and won that game, and you know, just special memory, a really, really special club.
Yeah.
Glenavon is, to be honest, and now obviously they've, you know, there's 3 brilliant people looking after them at the minute in McDermott and Fergie. So, you know, I hope they're able to, you know, because the thought of Glenavon not in the league is just
Strange.
it's crazy. It's like in the Premier League or so. Yeah, it's just, you always just associate Glenavon in the Irish League. So, hopefully with obviously now the news of investment coming in and whatever else, hopefully it, you know, they can first of all stay in the league and then they can go on and strengthen.
You take Paddy's advice.
Yep.
From the sounds of it.
Yep.
You go to the Duns.
Yep.
Was that a choice that you wanted to make? Did you think that your time at Glenavon was pretty much the final time, or were you like, let's maybe try this, see how it functions over the next week period, and we'll go from there?
Yeah, see, to be honest, Sonny, it was kind of hard-ridden the head, because the head was telling me, listen, you're done, just accept it, you're done. But the heart was saying, why not go somewhere where they'll work with you? And if you train once a week, if you train twice a week, if you don't train at all, but you've still the same opportunity to play, subject to obviously,
yes,
you know, playing well or whatever. Like, I'm not saying you're guaranteed your place, but at least, you know, not being ruled out because you didn't train during the week. So I decided then, it obviously came out that it was leaving Glenavon, and there was a couple of championship teams that had called me, and Stephen Gurley at Dundela, who'd kind of known a wee bit, and obviously kind of growing up in East Belfast, the connection, Duns, the Glens and stuff like that. I suppose maybe I thought, you know, maybe would finish there. And I say whenever every manager that rang me, I was greatly appreciative, because as far as, you know, I was ready for the skip in my head. So for them to ring me and make me feel wanted, I was really appreciative of it. And I was very honest with anyone that went out of their way to contact me. I said, listen, before we can get into anything here, here's the issues that I've been having, you know, and there's no guarantee I could last a week, I could last 6 months. I don't know.
Yeah.
But what I do know is, if this model of not, you know, really, really tailoring my training and, you know, low throughout the week, if this doesn't work, well then that is definitely,
yes,
that's it.
Yeah.
So, you know, part of me wishes I didn't almost go to the Duns, in that, you know, it's almost a wee bit embarrassing that you go in and you know, there's a whole, you know, they were loving me from day one and made a big deal of me signing, and you know, you felt so welcomed, and it's a great club and you know, great people about it. Only then, you know, I came away then in November, so it's like, you know, a bit unfortunate, but they were very, very understanding, and I think they almost appreciated, well, listen, you could have stayed about, and
Took your money and
and done nothing. So they said, listen, it's a mark of your character. And I said, well, listen, this is the decision that I committed to. So Gurley was a really good guy. And, he was very honest with me. I was very honest with him. And he said, listen, I want to take the chance and sign you. He said, if I get 2 games out of you, get 20 games, I don't care. I want you to sign. So I said, right, listen, I'll sign. And we, I'd started then and basically came through pre-season really feeling good. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I should have stayed at Glenavon.
What about?
Yeah. But it's funny because I was obviously made my mind up about leaving. We were actually going on a family holiday at like the end of July, which is even things like that. Yourself, I would have always went away like May, June or whatever like that.
Straight away, yeah.
So I thought, listen, football wouldn't be a thought anymore, so I can go away in July. And I think that maybe wee week broke my pre-season up to give my body actually a wee bit of rest to then come back at the done. So actually throughout pre-season I felt really good.
Yeah.
Came through completely unscathed. Played the first game of the season away to Warren Point. Tanked 3-1, whatever it was. I came off buzzing because it was my first 90 minutes in, I think it was like 14 months or something crazy. And even though and I know obviously say that in jest, but just the fact that it actually felt
like
good.
A personal achievement for you to be like, I've made it.
I played 90 minutes here. Yeah. Came through pre-season and I said, listen, happy days. And then I think 2 or 3 games later, we're playing was it Queens at the Duns, and just felt my groin, and I actually felt it slightly in the warm-up, and then stupidly played, and then lasted 20 minutes, and I came off. I just remember sitting in the dugout with literally like I could almost feel myself welling up. I just went, right, this is it, and then foolishly I'd give myself a couple of weeks and then tried it again. And then I lasted 20 minutes against the Institute, I think it was. And then that was
it down there to Brandywell?
No, thank God. It was in Bunks.
So that's a journey you don't want to make for 20.
So then that was me. That was it. And
were you comfortable at this time? Because you've obviously had this conversation with yourself numerous occasions saying, if it happens again, was this like final straw? I was like, do you know what? I'm actually comfortable now. Like, I can't keep doing this to myself.
Yeah, I think it made the decision slightly easier in that I knew myself.
Yeah,
that there's nothing more that I could have done to try and prolong my career. And I say I gave this. I suppose at least I know that I gave it a go at the Duns and tried it, because I think if I never did, I would have always thought, maybe I could have gone another couple of years if I.
Yeah,
drop down, whatever else. But that was I rang Gurley that Saturday night and said, listen, 100%, that's me done, 1,000,000%. And he said, right, listen, come to my house tomorrow for a beer and we'll have a chat. And now just a mark of the man. So I went to his house and just chatted, and he said, listen, I'm not going to beg you. He said, I can see firsthand the effect this is having on you. Yeah. I can see your whole body language, the way you came off yesterday, just everything. He said, it wouldn't be right for me to sit here and say, listen, give it another go.
Yeah.
Give it another go.
Selfish,
and, he said, listen, we can get a role for you at the club if you want, and you can stay about. If you want to stay involved, we'll do anything we can. And, again, things like that, it's just, it means so much, that way. So, he then unfortunately lost his job. Let's say I wasn't ready to take anything like that on. I needed to get away from it, and I suppose I feel guilty to a certain extent saying I don't miss playing football. Of course, I miss playing and being involved in games and being involved in big games and playing in front of stadiums, whatever else. But I don't miss what I've experienced the last number of years.
I get
missing games. Missing more games than playing.
Yeah.
Constant gym sessions on your own, the rehab, the distance away from the group, not feeling part of it, up and down road, all that. And that's, be very clear about that. Obviously, I miss playing, but I don't miss the way, the way the last number of years panned out for me, to be honest. So, the Cliffy then came into the Duns, and I told him, listen, I was finished, and again, he had said, listen, if you want to do anything, if there's anything we can do for you, we will, and whatever else. So I'd stepped away. I think it was like November. So I've actually been away for a good bit, and strangest thing, because it just kind of went on the radar, and I was totally fine with that.
Yeah.
I was happy enough, and then just randomly Cliffy texted me on New Year's Eve to say, listen, the club are going to put a thing out about you retiring. And I was like, what's the point now? It was 6 weeks ago. But and then that, obviously, then there was a, so the messages and all, it was
There was a massive outpouring.
It was so humble,
Yeah.
Johnny, honestly. So
But I think that's testament to you. Like, you've spent a lot of time in the league. You've made friends with hundreds of people who all hold you in high expectation. Everyone, I don't know anybody who's ever said a bad word about you. So, like, that's probably testament to you to saying, like, what a career you've had. The fact that people are wanting you to take jobs, going as coaching roles and stay around the club, they obviously know the impact that you have on people. So, that's you. So they should have done that, because it is such a thing to have. It's the best way to say, like, a nice send-off. You deserve it.
Okay, genuinely, Johnny, I was so humbled by messages from ex-teammates, ex-managers, different supporters, different people, just a whole. I was actually, I couldn't believe it, to be honest. And everyone kept on me. Said, "Fuck, you're melting this, no?" And you had people putting stories up or messaging, and it meant so much to me. Genuinely, every message meant so much to me, because in my eyes, I wasn't particularly successful. I played in the Irish League for a decent period of time, but as you say, I think there's not. I don't think there's anyone really that I did have good relationships, I like to think, with teammates and staff and whatever else. And even what you said on earlier on, me and you, like, we played one time against you at Mournview, and we kicked lumps at each other.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, I always thought you were actually you weren't too aggressive on the pitch, I think. And then as you got a wee bit older, I think you started turning a wee bit nastier.
You think so? I actually thought I was mellow and down.
No,
I actually thought I was worse.
I think you went the other way.
Oh, really?
Then you started kick me back that day. Johnny, that's good. It doesn't work like that. I kick you and then you score, whatever.
I thought I was mellow. I've been telling everybody, I'm going to cut that out. I've been telling everybody I'm mellowing out here.
But then I remember went in the bar after and you sat up with us and had a pint.
Absolutely.
We're actually slavering like mad at each other during the match. And then you went after and it's like, what way are we getting on there? What are you on
And
the
we're
drink?
such kids. Huh?
You know what I mean? And I see the Irish Leagues, I'm such a fan of the Irish League.
100%.
I think it's just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And you go in and you speak to people about it, and you bump into supporters or whoever, and everyone knows each other, and I just think it's incredible.
It is. And the stories that you come away with, I think that the fact that it's that small and that compact, you never miss a beat. If something happens, you hear about it, and it's just the amount of good people that you come across in that short period of time where you play is so worth it. So worth it.
Definitely. And it's I actually should have mentioned this earlier on. Actually, my career obviously finished with injuries. Now, I struggle with injuries, basically the best part of my career. That's called spade a spade.
Yeah.
But it's really weird, actually, when I think back on this. I almost never even got to have a career, because back after the 2013 Irish Cup, which obviously I wasn't part of, but we qualified for Europe. Back then, all players were UEFA insisted that all players had to basically be heart screened.
Yes, yeah.
So I remember we went to a place called 352 in the Lisburn Road, all the Glens players. You just got your slot and you went over and you got all these wires on, not sure if you've ever done one, and they just run you like, to get your heart going. And that was fine. You come away, right, happy days. And then a couple of days later, the secretary from the Glens rang me to say, listen, you need to go back to 352 for an appointment. Right? I thought maybe it didn't work properly or whatever else. And it turned out basically I had like an abnormality in my heart.
Yeah.
And whatever way it wasn't, basically the circuit wasn't going as it should have.
Yeah. Like an irregular, because we done the same. I think my dad's in the corner here and I had like an irregular heartbeat or something because they flagged me.
And did you get the procedure?
I never had a procedure done, but mine came after my mum's brother died early from cardiomyopathy. So
Right.
they screened me
Evan?
twice, and then they came in and they were like, your heartbeat's irregular, and it flagged, but it was like, you're fine. But this was, I would only have known about that because we had to go
Is
to,
that? Yeah.
there's a place in Montgomery Road,
Okay.
and you had to do something similar.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like, oh, fuck, maybe I'm going to drop here early doors, but it turns out it was actually all right.
You're fine, but this was in around the time. Do you remember the guy, Moamba, played for Bolton? He dropped
On the
away
pitch.
hardly in at Spurs.
Yes, yeah.
It was in around this time, so there was a lot of noise about heart screening and different things. And cut a long story short, then I had to basically get like a heart procedure, right, to fix this abnormality. Now, basically they said it may not have came to anything. You might have been fine,
Yeah.
but you would have been at a lot higher chance of basically collapsing when your heart was
Like at full exposure to
Yeah.
running or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
So it was pretty crazy when you think back about that. And say it was a very routine thing, and you were back. Like I wasn't out for an incredibly long period of time, but
Yeah.
and I say it was just through that the heart screening. So that was kind of the start of it. And then should have just wrapped it. Should have just took their advice.
It's just like I'm not fun. Yes, I'll enjoy my weekend.
I'll enjoy.
Look, if somebody on here can figure out how much time we spent injured compared to what we played, I reckon it's more. I was thinking about this myself, I think my knees alone.
close.
My knees alone are like, you're talking 3.5 years, and I'm only 30. Like,
But listen, you scored big goals. You played in big games. No one can take that away from you.
no, exactly, and that's why I enjoy doing what I do
Yeah.
now, because I get to hear the stories that I enjoyed about myself through everybody else, because everybody else has them.
Yeah.
And they're all fantastic, and nobody's the same. So anybody sits in that chair facing me,
Yep.
your story's so much fun, but it's your story. But it's going to be different to
Yeah, yeah.
somebody who played for Glenavon,
Yeah.
somebody who played for Glenavon.
Do you know what's great too? See, when you finish playing, you all of a sudden become such a good player. When you play, you're shite.
I know, everybody hated you, fans you.
And then you finish, what a player. So, no, but yeah, it's some things are out of your control. And, we were, just one of the unlucky ones. And
We were.
And
And it's just the way it happens.
it's the way it happens. And, some people can just get a good run at it. And
Well, at least we had it. Some
Exactly.
people get it early and never get it.
Yeah.
Where other people never get an injury and they have it the whole time. But
Yeah.
one last question before
Yes.
we finish a tremendous episode. What's next?
I don't know, Johnny, to be honest. As I say, I'm enjoying just, life being a wee bit
Weekend
slower.
for yourself, holidays when you
Weekends.
want.
All them
Fantastic.
things that come with it. It's I still go to games. Still like to watch Irish League football. So there's been a couple of wee things that have people have asked would it consider this or would it do that and maybe coaching or whatever. And the honest answer is I'm not. I'm one of these people that unless I'm 100% committed to doing something, I'll not do it.
Yeah.
So even if I'm 98%, I'm not doing it. And coaching probably. I don't know about you. Maybe you're probably similar to me. There's a lot of players that you play with, and they say all along the way, "I'm going to coach. I'm going to go into coaching. I'm going to go into management." I was never like that. I don't know about you, but I think then when the reality sets in that you're finished playing, and you still love football and still want to do something, then I'll maybe change my mind. But I say two kids there. Saturdays now look completely different. But wee girl goes to gymnastics, son plays football, and it's just nice that you're not looking go. I need to leave here 15 minutes early to get back, throw my tracksuit on, go away to the brandy, or things like that. No, see, you miss playing. Don't get me wrong, and even Christmas was very different there. Just no ties, nothing that
Not worried about Boxing Day. You could have 2 dinners and
just
as much drinks as you want.
You're in maybe day before, you may be in Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Boxing Day, then you may be in the day after, and then you have another game before, and next thing and everyone around you is is out and celebrating whatever, which is fine because at the end of the day, if you play in a big, a derby on Boxing Day
There's nothing like it.
and get the right set of results, it's worth every sacrifice.
100%.
And I was fortunate. We won. I think only actually won one Boxing Day.
Still got one.
So, but no, listen, we'll see what the future holds, Johnny. But as I say, for now, it's just enjoying the break, and we'll see what happens. Listen, I don't think I'm finished in football, put it that way.
Good.
But as I say, I'm certainly not going to rush into it. I'm just enjoying the way things are at the minute, and as I say, we'll see how it goes.
Good. Well, listen, we finish on hugs.
I've been looking forward to this.
Yes.
So I have.
Thank you.
All right. Pleasure. Thank you so much.
Join us next week on the On the Spot Football Podcast for yet another fantastic guest. See you soon.